Hey y'all, it's Steve, Hobo with Wood. In this video, I'm going to go over a new twist on an easel for displaying artwork like this. This particular easel is a musical themed easel, in the fact that it's treble clef, and it's got some musical notes in there too for support. Now this one's unpainted and unfinished, and there are a few steps along the way that you have to know about for assembly. We're going to go over all that and the design process in this video. All right, so Sunday, after a previous live stream on Saturday night, I get an email early in the morning on Sunday from Moses, one of my supporters, asking about an easel. He had already created a guitar pick themed piece of artwork, and he needed an easel to display a piece like this. And you can already see, or you should see, the problems with trying to display a piece like this on an easel. Well, you know, that support right there. I mean, how do you get that and an easel that's going to look good in a musical theme like that? So I got busy. He emailed me in the morning. I didn't get it till about 6 in the evening. I had some ideas immediately come to mind. Then I asked him about his material thickness. How thick was his actual pick going to be? And then I was able to start coming up with an idea for the actual base, how you're going to support this. So let's take a look at the actual easel design and how it works, how it goes together. It is designed so that it will work with this 3mm material, but it's also accommodating for larger pieces and for pieces that just have a flat bottom that you want to put on that easel. It doesn't have to be for a guitar pick. But I did it in a musical theme. The face of it, for those who were, in band camp, you might recognize it looks like a music stand, and that's the vertical support. The base is its shadow. So it's a music stand, and there is the treble clef that works for the vertical support for the two stands, and then to give it some reinforcement and to steady that up, I put a couple of little musical notes on either side of that, and those are on this base that goes across there and supports that treble clef. I have not glued this up completely, so I can disassemble it and show you how it goes together. The first key factor here is the rear support for the artwork does not attach to the base itself. It's only attached to the treble clef in these two slots. So that will lift off. That will lift off because I haven't glued it. There we go. And it's got clearance there so that when you put those in place, there we go. It clears that raised pad there and just kind of sits on that base. So that's not hard to assemble. But if people are looking at it trying to get it to line up with, there we go. There's a slot back there. Well, that slot is not for the support. That slot is for, in this case, for the guitar pick or any thin 3mm material that kind of comes to a point. Maybe you didn't want a guitar pick. Maybe you wanted a diamond shape or a heart. Anything that doesn't have a flat bottom that you needed to have it come to a point and sit. Well, that layer is, as you can see there, it's 2 layers on top of the base. and it's got an oversized slot in there that's larger than 3 millimeters. And it has to be larger than 3 millimeters because this is going to not just sit in there, but it's got to sit in there and then lean back. So that sits in that slot and then leans back against your support, like so. And that will keep that in its position and not go anywhere. You know, unless you're in Japan and you're subject to lots and lots of earthquakes. So that's that. The support only is attached to the treble clef, the backrest. I've got this piece here on the front in a separate 3 millimeter slot that gets glued to that additional raised base. And that's so if you were doing a thicker material, say, 5 or 6 millimeter maple, and it wasn't rectangular, it didn't need to come to a point, then you could do something like this that would sit on there, and then that's going to hold that in its position by simply being a kickstand or a retention device to hold that in place while the support is on there. Now obviously this is much too small of a project for an easel this big. This is scalable. You can scale it down. I made this one as large as I could using a 300 by 300 millimeter piece of material. It actually took 2 pieces of material to make this entire design this large. You could scale it down as long as you scale it all at once to where you could actually make this entire thing out of a single piece of 300 by 300 material and then resizing your slots before you cut it out. So that's not an issue. My designs 90% of the time are scalable. All right, now the tricky part was the notes, the musical notes. Getting those on there and creating that additional support. And everything's not glued up, but I do make things with a tight friction fit. So hopefully I can get this off here without tearing up a bunch of stuff. That's loose. But that one's not. That one's really not. Come to Papa. There we go. All right, well, I just lifted the whole thing off. That's okay. So now that I do have glued on there. That's glued in place. But now I've got my treble clef and my notes. Those are obviously 2 tabs that just fit in either side of the base. The notes, now I'm trying to get this in the camera where you can see it pretty good. You can see there is a little rise. The top of that stands proud over the treble clef profile. And I wanted to give this, because this is support, and I didn't want to make it so small and fragile that it was even prone to breaking. So it's intentionally a little bit taller than the base of the treble clef. But that slides off of the treble clef. It's just a couple of slots, and more. Again, tight friction fit. All right, got that loose. But now I've got it loose. How do you get it in there? How do you get that in the treble clef? How do you get it out of there? Well, the notes are not attached. See, there's a gap back there. See that the notes are individual from each other. They're not attached at the flag of the note. And I can rotate that. There we go, like that. And it comes out that way. So it will go in this fat area, and then you can line up that slot for those music notes and slide it down into position where it needs to go, and then slide it into your base, and there you go. Bob's your uncle. And with that like that, now you've got 4 points of contact, because each of the pieces, each of these on the bottom of the treble clef, these are 2 tabs that will fit in the base, and you got 2 tabs on either side of the music notes. And that locks in to those 4 slots, making for a pretty secure base, a pretty solid base. And when you put that in, It's only going to go in one way. You've got a really narrow slot up here at the front and the wide one at the base. And that's going to slide together. There we go. All right. And then your backboard or your support, rear support. Of course, you're going to glue all this up as you're going. Oh, no glue holding mine in place right now. Be right back. Okay, sorry for that interruption. So I've got it back together. I still haven't glued this up because let's take a look at the design in LightBurn, because I mentioned to you that this was a scalable design in LightBurn. You can probably scale it in any software you're using. I don't know how easy it is to resize your slots and shapes if you aren't using LightBurn, but it's extremely easy to do if you're using LightBurn. So I'm going to go over here to this design and show you how this works and how you could use this particular design with, or the easel with multiple shapes, even, like I said, stuff that's not the guitar pick. If guitar thing's not your thing, then, just the heart or a diamond shape, anything that comes to a singular point on the bass. So let's jump over to LightBurn. So this will be how the file will be available. It will be currently set up and nested so you can cut the pieces out of two pieces of 300 by 300 millimeter material. And this is just one idea that you might use for artwork. It's just a large guitar pick. But if you did not want this, like right now, this is your backboard support. That's the vertical support, the one with just two slots. And when we look at just that piece is right at 10 inches tall from the bottom of that base to the top of that. So with that being right at 10 inches or 255 mil, if you were wanting to use it to display something that was less than 10 inches tall and you don't want to see any part of that easel, or none or very little, then you're going to want to size that accordingly. But you can't just resize this. Well, you can, but it won't work. You need to resize. I find it's better if you resize it all at one time. So if I was going to, let's just say we're going to use this same guitar pick, but you only wanted it to be 6 inches tall. Well, I'm going to group all this together. I'm going to lock my aspect ratio, and 6/4, 150 mil, give or take. Change aspect ratio lock, go to 10 inches. And now 250 mil tall. I'm sorry, 254. 254 mil. Or 6 inches. No, that's 10 inches. I want to do 6 inches. 6 inches. And now, yeah, I was right. About 152 mil. So if I wanted to do it with a 6-inch piece of material. Well, if that's that, I'm going to copy that. Actually, you know what? I'm not. I'm going to ungroup it. And I'm going to only copy that outer perimeter by Control D, duplicate that, and bring that over here. Go ahead and put it on a toolpath so there's definite variation there. And group that back together. So that's the size that I want to be able to put over here and have all of the music stand hidden. Well, I can go about it a couple different ways, because like I like to say, there's always another way, and my way isn't always the best way or the right way, Well, I shouldn't say the right way because I don't believe in right and wrong. Good and evil. Lots of evil in this world, but I don't believe in right or wrong. The fact that my way is not the way you would do it doesn't mean that I was wrong. It's just the way I do it. One way that I would do this is first, I'm going to look right now. If I look at just that piece, I can see I'm not grouped. So I'm going to select everything here, including that little toolpath, hold my control and select that little toolpath to deselect it, and now group everything together so that's all grouped. And now if I look here, let's do this. Let's put the anchor point in the center. Well, actually, you know what? First, no, let's do it at the bottom. So I'm going to select this piece, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to tell it to align to the center and at the bottom. All right? Now I'm going to select just this piece. I'm going to put my anchor point at the bottom center, and then I'm going to start experimenting a little bit. Just kind of guessing and eyeballing. Actually, do a little bit of scientific guessing. If that's 152 mil and that is 154 mil, then around, let's say at 50%. So take that, aspect ratio locked, the height, come over here to the percentage and tell it 50%. That would work. It's actually, it could be bigger. So undo, and let's do 60%. 60% is not enough. Undo at 55%. And I like that better. 55% would work. So I can now undo. Don't have to. I could have left that alone. Turn off my toolpaths. And now select this entire image, every bit of it. Aspect ratio locked and tell it to change by 55%. And that scales everything down. Is it 55 or 65? 55? We'll see. We'll turn it back on. No, I did that wrong. Undo. Undo. Turn that back on. It was 55%. What did I do wrong? That 55% height, yep, 55%. So undo 55% height, 55%. There we go. So now that shrunk everything down all at once. And if I put my toolpath back over here on the center, you can see that's a good look. I like that. And now what you notice with that being down to 55% to be able to be a 6-inch easel, I can take this, I can move it over here, and I can even take this, rotate it 90 degrees. Actually, we're gonna put it, there we go. And I can put that right there. I can get that entire thing out of one single piece of 3mm material. But what if you're not using 3mm material? What if it's 2.8 millimeters or 2.75, or if you've got mics, you're at 3.3, whatever your material is. Now that you've resized it, you're going to need to resize your slots and shapes. Your slots and tabs using the resize slots in selection, and we'll see. We'll take a look here. We're going to resize our slots and tabs. So there are no slots and tabs on this artwork up here, so even if we select it, it's irrelevant. But I'm just going to select this lower portion here. And first thing I look at, I say I've got grouped pieces. And I can tell by looking here that this is grouped and none of these are, because these are just simply dashes and these are dash, dot, dot, dash, dot, dot, dash. So I need to ungroup. Now I got everything ungrouped. I can select all of that again. And now I need to resize my slots and selection. Now I did not go and look and see what those new dimensions of those slots were. So if I go straight to resizing slots and selection tool, I don't know what what size to look for. So to save a little bit of a headache, let's go take a look at them. So if I select just this guy, I can see it's 1.65 millimeters. And that should be the same for, within reason, for all of the slots and tabs. But I can grab my ruler and come over here. There's 1.6, 1.6, 1.6, 1.65. So I can say OK. Now go into the resize slots and selection tool, under tools, resize slots and selection. I'm making this out of a single piece of 3 millimeter material. So my old material thickness was 1.6, and I want it to be 3 millimeters. And I need to, and if your tolerance is set to a very low tolerance, and I'm looking for my slot width, it's not noticing anything there. But if I look at my tab height, it notices a few of these tabs here, because those were the ones that were 1.6, not 1.65. But if I increase my tolerance, because if I look back to here, slot width, it doesn't recognize anything, because they were 1.65. So if I just increase my tolerance to a 0.8, now you start to see your slots there. And if I go back over here to tab height, I still see my tabs also. So slot width and tab height. Now, you'll notice here it's recognizing this, these four, and this one single piece here, because that's the piece that this tab is going to slide into. And it's recognizing that up here, and that's fine for slots. But it does not recognize these right here. Now this is a little bit of an issue if you're going to resize it and make it considerably smaller. And I'm going to show you how you need to determine what this size needs to be. But first, let's accept these values. We want to do these slot widths, apply, tabs, we want to do those tab heights and say OK. And now that's fixed all that. But let's see, that's this one. These need to be adjusted. And what those are for, those are the pieces that your artwork is actually going to sit in. And right now, if I look at that piece, it's 2.6 millimeters wide. Your 3 millimeter material won't sit in there. So that's going to be an issue. But you don't want it just to sit in there vertical. You need it to be able to recline. Well, how do you determine that? Well, quite easily. If you watch this video, you'll know exactly how to do yours without having to show you what I'm going to have to go find out, because I got to go figure it out. I'm pretty sure I remember what I did, but I've got to figure it out. And I'm going to show you how simple it is when it's not your design, or you don't have a video like this on knowing how to look for and how to correct those situations. So first, what I need to do is I need to know the angle that the piece is going to be laying back on. So if I've got a straight line, well, you know what? We won't even do a straight line. We're going to do a profile. We're going to do a 6-inch, because that's how tall our piece is, right? 152.4 mil. So this needs to be, we're going to unlock our aspect ratio. It needs to be 3 mil and 152.4 mil. So there's the side profile of our guitar pick in this case. And it's not sitting on our easel straight up. It needs to be reclined. So how do we know how far it's reclined? And we need to know how far it's reclined because we need to know how big these slots need to be. In fact, let's come down here to the bottom, and we're going to make a slot right now, and we're going to make it a square, 3 by 3. Aspect ratio locked, 3 mil. Put that at the bottom center. So now that would represent this one 3mm thick slot. And that's why it's standing straight up, because it has no other option. In order for it to recline, it needs to be wider so this can lay back. But how wide does it need to be? And that's what we're going to figure out. And if you're watching this video and you're going to be resizing this, you will not need to go do the math, because I'm getting ready to do it for you. First thing I need to do is I'm going to take my treble clef. I'm not going to worry about getting the whole thing. I'm only going to get that outer perimeter. I'm going to say Control D, duplicate it. Now I'm going to bring it down here. And let's put it on toolpath so we remember that it's nothing important. And I need to get this sitting level like it would be in the base, because right now it's rotated in order for me to get it all on my material nice and nested. So if I were to, I can do this, there's always another way. I can bring this down here, grab a toolpath, and then put it, we'll put it over here at this bottom corner. Put that, grab it, there we go, and snap it right there to the corner. Now I'm going to use Control 2. Control and the number 2, and then I get this instruction. Select first point, the center position. All right, so right there. Now it says click and drag to the second point where you will rotate from. So I'm going to rotate from right here, and now drag it. Oh, I dragged it, selected the wrong thing. Control Z. So I need to come up a little bit. Or no, I won't. Yeah, I will. I'll move my position. All right. It selected the toolpath instead of the, and that might be because I had it selected. Let's try this first. Select that toolpath. Now Control 2 and grab that corner again. And now grab this corner. There we go. That time it grabbed it. And now I can pull this line out anywhere I want to where I can see where that toolpath is and snap it right to it. And now that puts that upright and vertical. So I'm going to go, okay, great. So there's the first problem. That's now back erect. Now I can see this is the angle that that backboard is going to be resting at. So I can use my measurement tool to come over here and select that line, and you can see here that the angle is 110 degrees. 110 degrees. So now you're like, well, what does that tell me? 110 degrees. Well, the angle of inclination or reclining that line there is at 110 degrees, but from what point? Well, it's from that straight line that I just had down there at the bottom. You know, straight up and down, there's 90, but that's at 110. So the difference between 90 and 110 is 20 degrees. So it is reclined 20 degrees. So I can say, okay, I don't need this anymore. And if I come in here to this, I'm going to select just that piece. And we'll leave our anchor point at the bottom left. And now I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise 20 degrees. And to do that, I come over here to my rotate tool and rotate it -20. And that puts that corner there and there. But now you can see where we're running into. Is this cannot recline because that is a hard fixed point. So that point needs to come all the way over here to that point. So what I'm going to do is first to make, and here I'm just being really specific. I could just simply grab that. Come on, there we go. And just eyeball it and draw that out to about right there. And you can see that it's going to be a little bit more, and that gives you a little bit of play. But you don't need a little bit more. You don't need a little bit more play because the kerf of your laser is going to give it a little bit more and a little bit of play. And if you want to make it you know, as big as it needs to be, but not excessive, because you want to have it to where that when it goes in there and lays back, that it's kind of snug, so it's not wanting to, flop around. So to make sure it's only as big as it needs to be, I'm going to undo, put that back where it was at. I'm going to draw a straight line. Doesn't matter how long it is. And I'm going to take that straight line and I'm going to put it at the same height of that square. There we go. And now I'm going to select this line right here. And am I on it? I'm not on the tool bed. All right. I don't think, because I'm not up on the work bed, I don't think docking is going to work. It didn't used to, but we're going to try it again. I seem to recall they might have fixed it. So with padding at 0, and I'm going to dock it to the right. And if I hit docking rightward, no, it didn't work. But if I select, I no longer need that toolpath. I'll delete it. Grab that right there, and let's put it up here in the work bed. And now, looking at that, if I take that line and dock it to the right, there we go. That puts it right at the edge of that piece perfectly. So now I can take that, and I know I need to be right spot on that. And like I said, you could do it. I'm gonna show you even more detail. There you see they're overlap. No, they're not even overlap. Grab that and bring it right on top of that. There we go. And you could zoom in and try and do that scaling, but now you've got a full length of a line there that you can. If I take that back, let's go to Control Z, put that back over there. Because what you can do, if you've got a really good mouse and you're ambidextrous and you're multi-talented, I'm selecting that square by doing the left click. Now that I've selected it, I'm zooming in and scrolling around, still holding that select. And so now you see I can still scroll that or move that in and out by scrolling in, and I could, if that line wasn't there, I could still get in there close enough to say that right there is going to work. There's always another way. Another way, Control Z, is if we look at this location, don't need to do that. Don't need to drop pin. That's for the laser movement. Sorry. Take that back. Here and here. All right. Well, I can go to. I started to show you how to use the X and Y position on the menu board to go. We can go too far down the rabbit because it doesn't need to be that precise, but you do want to keep it as tight as possible so that it does give you the support that you're looking for. So I showed you some couple of ways. We're not going to go any further because we can go down and down and down and explore because there's always another way. So let's put that back. Come on. Wrong way, Conway. There we go. Right there. I don't need that line anymore. But now that tells me the size that slot needs to be. And actually, I got a little bit of room right there. I just now noticed with the way that kicked back and up. So I'll just eyeball it, bring that in there, kind of sort of like that. And that's all the room you need. So that size is, we'll say 3x4. We'll just make it an even 3x4 millimeters, not 44. I still did 40. had aspect ratio locked. Dummy. So that's a little bit big, but that'll work. And now that I think about it, 3x4 is what I determined the first time, because that's not going to change. Now to think about it, that slot's not, whatever that original size was before scaling it is going to remain the same. But you have to scale it down in order to maintain its position within the design. And when you scale it down, it's going to change its dimensions. But for that angle, and also something else I just realized, I did that 2 layers. I wanted it to go through 2 layers. So this was actually, if I change the anchor point on this to here and change the height to 6 mil. Maybe I didn't do 3x4. I can't remember. But there's the actual height, because it's going through 2 layers. It's going through, that's because I wanted it to be, sit down there a little bit deep. So there, I'm going to just draw that one out to there. Is it what I do? 5. It was a difference of 3x4 and then 5x6. Yeah. Had a lot on my mind lately, and I can't remember how. But this is what will work, because I got it going through. Oh my goodness! Let's just take that off. It's going through 2 layers there, so that's going to be an estimate 6 mil. So 6 mil, reclined at 20 degrees, in order to have the clearance that it needs to give me that desired angle. Yeah, we'll do 5x6. 5x6. So it's 5 mil wide. The 6 deep is how the 2 layers of 3. So this needs to be 5 mil. So unlocked aspect ratio and 5 with, oops, got to make sure your anchor point's in the center. So I can say enter and undo, anchor point in the center and 5 mil. And this one is the same way, anchor point in the middle and 5 mil. So those will line up. Those actually are that way. So that's going to sit on there. That one will sit on top. And actually, you know what? I got to do that one too. Glad I did that. That one's got to be 5 mil. Is there going to be room for it? Yep. It's a little tight, but it'll go. So there. Glued up. There. Glued up. Okay. That should walk you through resizing it, how it's assembled. And like I said, if you wanted to use a heart shape or if you wanted to use a diamond shape, I would not recommend using anything that come to a true point. If you're going to do a heart shape and or a diamond shape, I would come back and let's do a diamond shape. Let's do here shape properties, 4 sides. That's 3. Where's 4? You said, wait a minute, that's just a square. Well, it's a little different. And now I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. Got to select it, rotate it. There we go. And now what I would not leave this a sharp, hard point. What I would recommend doing is if you are going to do this piece, from the very beginning, from your onset, like, what, I've got an idea that I want to do, and I want to do it with a diamond shape, and I only want it to be 6 inches tall. Well, then I would set up, get my easel all sized up. Then once you've got your easel sized up and you know how big those holes and slots are going to be, in order for it to recline in its proper alignment, then I'd use that information to know how wide I can have my optimum base of that triangle in this shape, or this diamond, so I've got the most support possible down there. So let's go back over here. And in this case, I've got that. Actually, there's the same. Those are all the same. It's in this case, it's 13 by 8.5, or 13.85 mil. So I'm going to just duplicate that. Control D, duplicate it, and move it to the center of the screen. And then I'm going to put it at the bottom of this. There we go. So if that's the size of my hole in the base that this is going to sit in, then I could take this and actually this is going to, there are 3 layers for this to go through. So if that's the case, this would actually work as is. Because if I duplicate 3 of those, Control D, 1, 2, I got 3 of those there. Make sure my movement tab is at 1 mil, shift arrow, yes, okay. So shift 1, 2, 3, oh, not the whole thing. I only want there we go, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, that's 5 mil, okay. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the overall thickness of that piece. So that diamond, which I duplicated, looks like, there we go. That diamond would sit to there before it come into contact. That's not quite, about there. Now it's got contact on either side. So if you wanted to have more contact, as long, you want it to sit deeper, as long as you had the room, you could make this a little bit wider. Here, in fact, let's take a look here at something. So it's nowhere near coming through the bottom. So a third layer is not absolutely required. You could actually get rid of this. No, you wouldn't want to get rid of this. Well, because this is where this locks on. But if you don't want that, you don't need it, then you could eliminate that and that whole layer right there using this layer. You've got room that you could make that wider. So with these, and you could make just the top one wider and keep the bottom one narrower. And then what would happen would be, if I've got rid of this one and I've got 2 layers to come through, before it hit the bottom, there it's coming through. You wouldn't want it protruding, so you're going to keep it about in there like so. So you could, if you wanted to, go so far as to take that, hold your control, and we'll drag it out just by visualization, say okay about there, and then that one, it could be shrunk in to about like that, and that's going to give you a staggered fitment, so that as this goes in, not only have you got a point of contact here and here, but you'd have another point of contact here and here to help give it even more support while it's standing in that upright position on a point. So I wasn't even planning on talking about doing that, but that's something you could do. There's always something new in Hobo with wood. So I will get this design up on the website, and I'll go ahead and include this guitar design, the pick rather, I'll even leave that artwork on there. This is from svgheart.com. I'm not selling it. It's part of the. You can have it, throw it away, don't use it, whatever. But before you start using it for commercial applications, you might check with SVG Heart. I don't know if there's any issues there, but and there might even take issue with me bringing them up in the channel, even though they appreciate that, but me leaving this on there for you, I don't know. But hey, I'm endorsing them, recommending them, and probably more than half of my people aren't going to care for anything beer related anyway. So I'll leave all that as is, and you see that it's pretty stable. I push it hard enough, it can lean, but it will find its natural center and go there. So it works. Proof of concept, it works. HoboWithWood.com, you can check out that and download it, or you now have seen what goes into creating some of those. I've shown you tons of videos on making slots and tabs. I don't need to go into the whole design part of it. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to help you. HoboWithWood@gmail.com. And I'm Steve, Hobo with Wood. I'll see you in the next video.